それでは定刻になりましたので、ただいまよりセミナーの方を開催させていただきます。皆様、本日は大変お忙しい中、カザフスタン国有鉄道主催カザフスタン鉄道物流セミナーにご来場いただき、誠にありがとうございます。私、本日の司会進行を務めさせていただきます、スコット株式会社土木園と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。本日のまずスケジュールなんですが、クリステンセン様のプレゼンテーションが約20分から30分、その後ランチタイム兼懇親会という形で約1時間半を取りまして、2時に終了という流れになっております。それでは、まずプレゼンテーションに入る前に、本日のセミナーのために香港から来日された3名様ご紹介させていただきたいと思います。まずは、KTZ エクスプレス香港リミテッド代表、ヘンリック・クリステンセン様、一番左ですね。続きまして、同じく KTZ エクスプレス香港リミテッドマーケティングマネージャー、アラン・ソー様。そして、香港の物流メディア企業、フォーカスアジア社のグローバルマーケティングディレクターのレイ・チョウ様。お三方、今回来日していただきました。それでは後ほど懇親会の際にですね、皆様ぜひ、積極的に名刺交換していただければと思います。それでは、本日のご講演者でいらっしゃいますヘンリック・クリステンセン様の紹介から、させていただきたいと思います。ヘンリック・クリステンセン様は物流運輸業界に大変に精通した方でいらっしゃいます。現在は KTZ エクスプレス香港のグローバルロジスティック代表を務められる傍ら、ギニアシッピングコーポレーションの CEO、そしてグローバルロジスティックスシールド社の取締役を務められていらっしゃいます。クリステンセン様は海運及び運輸業界で40年以上のキャリアをお持ちで、これまでにイギリス、デンマーク・コペンハーゲン、タンザニア・ダレスサラームと世界を股にかけてご活躍してこられました。そして1996年に香港に拠点を移し、M&A コンサルタントとして活躍、北米市場への会社上場にも携われたそうです。そして2005年、チャイナロジスティッククラブを中国で立ち上げ、中小フォワーダーの中国ビジネス獲得支援をスタートさせていらっしゃいます。以来、ご自身の人脈を生かして、アフリカンロジスティッククラブ、ヨーロピアンロジスティッククラブ、アメリカンロジスティッククラブ、インディアンロジスティッククラブを立ち上げてこられました。2010年にはナイジェリアにある中国系資源会社の精製所建設プロジェクトにコンサルタントとして参加、またガーナ企業のためにガーナ国内の内陸港および精製所建設の支援も行われてこられました。そして翌年の2010年にはガーナ国内の太陽光発電事業をスタートさせたというすごいバイタリティの持ち主でいらっしゃいます。クリステンセン様の最新のプロジェクトは本日の主題でもありますカザフスタンのニューシルクウェイプロジェクトであります。主にマーケティングプロモーション活動を担当されている中で、中国カザフスタン国境のホルゴス特別経済区およびインランドコンテナデポに関する最新動向を本日はお話しいただきます。なお、クリステンセン様、本日ですね、英語で講演されますが、その、講演内容を日本語訳したものを皆様のお手元にお配りしてあります。このニューシルクウェイセミナーと、タイトルある書類になります。でこちらにスライドのページ数も記載してありますが、ページ数、皆さんのお手元のページ数と番号を合わせてありますので、それでお話お聞きいただければと思います。それとあと直前にですね、ちょっとスライドの変更がありましたので、変更箇所は皆様の書類の変更はちょっと間に合わなかったものですから、こちらのスライドの部分で赤字になっている部分は変更箇所で皆様のお手元の資料とちょっと若干内容が変わっているところですので、そちらご注意いただければと思います。それでは、クリステンセン様、どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for coming, everybody. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. The reason to be here is really to tell you a little bit about the service we are now operating. Okay, operating from China to Europe and back. Let's start from the beginning with this one. don't want to see my face, so I'll move that quickly. Here's the new Silkway. We have added on lots of cities in China and cities in Europe. The plan is to use this hub and spoke system, where we'll use Hawkers as the main hub on China-Kazakhstan border, and Brest at the other end, so we can consolidate and build block trains in Hawkers to different destinations in Europe. Hawkers is the new free trade zone, which will be a major logistic hub in the future. So it's a rebirth of the old Silk Road from and to China. KTZ Express is a wholly owned company of the Kazakhstan National Railway. And we offer services not only from Chongqing, Kazakhstan, Duisburg, but also, as I mentioned, at the moment there's services from Wuhan, Chengdu, Chongqing, Lingengang, to Lodz in Poland, Hamburg, Duisburg, Prague as well, Samsung, Apple, the company which manufactures Apple moves into Prague as well. They have a block train in there as well. As I mentioned, it's not only Chongqing, but Chongqing to Duisburg was the pioneering route. Hewlett Packard was the company who started and have worked with us for many years to get this service up and running. It takes 15 days, well, that's a bit optimistic, but 15 to 18 days is the average transit time versus 45 days by ocean freight. KTZ Express is also a multimodal company. We also have now been given responsibility of 11 airports in Kazakhstan. We also have warehouses. We're also building a new container port in Aktau for the service into Baku in Azerbaijan, and then either across the Black Sea to Europe or via Turkey. And under the Phosphorus Sea, there's now a tunnel being built, which means we can, in theory, drive railway all the way into Europe. And we have also a terminal network all over Kazakhstan as well. So for Japan, I think Central Asia is a new place where you can develop business. We already have Toyota. NYK is building a terminal in Hawkers as well. Toyota will do some light assembly as well there. We expect many computer companies will also use it as a distribution hub, not only for Central Asia, but for Southern Russia, the Middle East as well. DP Freight, which is a German national railway, did the first train from Chongqing to Duisburg. And the Chinese president recently opened or went to Duisburg to see one of the trains. Yusinov, as you can see on the train there, is a joint venture between KTZ Express, the Russian railway, the German railway, and the Chongqing government. And they were established specifically to carry the Hewlett Packard containers from their factory in Chongqing. Yeah, so I mentioned KTZ is a joint venture partner with Yusinov. We opened a new office in Hong Kong on the 24th of June, which was specifically to do the marketing and awareness of the new Silk Road. But since then, we've also been made the commercial office. We will arrange for new block trains from China and Korea and Japan into Europe and Central Asia. We've also been given responsibility to manage the reloading in Europe. So the plan is to do trains on a pendulum service. So we have trains going to, let's say, to Antwerp. We will reload with pharmaceutical from Antwerp back to China. Well, as you probably know from Japan, Lingyungang has been the main entry point. It was the first Chinese port which was given permission to carry cargo into transshipment into Kazakhstan, Central Asia, and so on. But KTZ Express, we've invested $100 million to upgrade the facilities and build warehouses in Lingyungang, and that is, of course, specifically targeting the Japanese and the Korean markets. I mentioned here about the transfer to Kazakhstan train using different rail gauge. But these days it is nothing different, for example, from loading from a truck to a ship. It is basically just a lift of the container from one rail wagon to the other, so it's no longer an issue. It takes a few hours to reload the whole train, so it's not a major issue. But the railway gauge changes at the China-Kazakhstan border, and again at the Brest-Polish border, so it happens in two places. KTZ is actually investing in 90-foot railway wagons, so we can have two 45-foot reefer containers on the same railway wagons. So we will use those from, well, basically from the whole routes. The intention is we have just bought 245-foot reefer containers, and these reefer containers are specifically built for this route because you cannot use a normal reefer container on this route. So we have built 800-liter diesel tanks, so you can operate these containers from Europe to China. We will, of course, also have service stations and refilling where necessary on the way. But it is, again, Hewlett Packard who has been the driver in this, because during the winter you could not normally ship via Russia unless you have it in refrigerated containers. Computers and other equipment will not take the low temperatures to Russia. So we're using those 45-foot reefer containers. These are pallet-wide high-cube reefer containers. And we've invested $20 million so far. And we need to buy 900 of those containers purely to transport the pharmaceutical business back from Europe back to China. The pharmaceutical industry has about 120 40-foot containers a week going back to China. So it's quite a lot of business. We also have some frozen chicken, chilled fruit and vegetables and so on. So the demand for these reefer containers will be much, much higher than the initial 900. A little bit about Kazakhstan. It's the 9th largest country in the world, with a population of only 17 million people. But it is a very rich country. It has vast natural resources. I believe it has the second biggest oil reserve in the world as well. All this development is taking place right now. It is located in the heart of Eurasia. And during the past centuries, trade between East and West was done to the old Silk Way. So now this is the new Silk Way which we are developing. Here's a bit of a map. This better explains. As you can see, there's a lot of companies there, Japanese companies, which also have factories around China, which will now go to on this route via Hawkers, which will be the main station. Alishanko and Dostik will be used for general bulk cargo, and containers will go via Hawkers. We appointed DP World to manage the free trade zone and the inland container depot. So we have very well organized companies to manage it, to remove all the hassles there was before at Hawkers. So operating efficiently, cleanly and transparently. As you can see, I'm sure most Japanese companies, of course, know the Trans-Siberian route. Our intention with this route is to make it reliable. To me, when you talk about train service, if you leave at 12:04 and arrive at 16:08, this is the way I see that this service should be. It has to be precise, it has to be accurate, and we are working with European partners who have access to the private railway system in Europe, which means that if there are any delays, we can help to speed it up to arrive in Europe. I mean, I want to try to achieve that we actually reach Antwerp from Hawkers in less than 10 days, because then we are suddenly competing against air freight and not the sea freight. I think that customers, they want reliability, they want fixed rates which doesn't go up and down every other week. The railways, I think in general, only change the tariff twice a year. So it's going to be rates which will be transparent, so everybody know what the rate is for container from, let's say, from Japan or Lingengang to Europe. And it is precise and accurate. So people know that they will get their cargo in 10, 12 days or whatever the transit time will be. There's a lot of development in new trains. Kazakhstan have a joint venture with General Electric, building very powerful trains which will help to speed it up. So the hope is that we will get down to below the 10 days, and then I think that it will be news that we can actually start competing with air freight. This map on top there, you can see also there's going to be services into Iran. It will open up the whole Middle East. We already have inquiries from China delivering car parts to Iran. The Middle East market to me is very big. You can also see the map there via Turkey into Europe as well. So there are those three routes. It's not only via Russia, but it is via via Aktau and Baku, and then via Iran and Turkey into Europe. And it is now possible with the tunnel under the Phosphorus to get trains all the way into Europe. So yeah, of course, it's not only Central Asia and Europe. You also have Southern Russia, the Baltic states, which of course is traditional. In Europe, when you have containers to Kazakhstan or Central Asia or China, you would tend to go to one of the Baltic states. We would like to change that, so you can also load out of Antwerp, out of Rotterdam, out of Hamburg, and of course Duisburg and other inland points as well. And as I mentioned, the route via the Caspian Sea, where we have already bought 10 vessels. We're building a new container port in Aktau as well. So really developing that route as well. So KTZ is making some serious investments in making this possible. I think it's $45 billion Kazakhstan has set aside for infrastructure projects. Yeah, I think all of you people who know logistics, to have an agreement where there's no longer checkpoints at every country border, I think it's a miracle. I've been in logistics since 1971, I think I started. And it's very rare that these kind of things happen, but it has enabled the trains to get there fast, to reduce the theft at the different border points. So now the checking will only be done at the border and when it arrives in Europe. So there's no delays anywhere. And this was done by Mr. Mammon, the president of KTZ, who has negotiated with the different governments to remove that because of the delays, the 2 to 3 days at borders was what made the route unattractive. And of course the theft which normally happens when this kind of inspection takes place. Thank you. yeah, also the train speed has more or less doubled in the last couple of years as well with new, more powerful trains. There's also been a lot of testing by companies regarding the vibration, so that has also been resolved. As you probably know, the China Railway had only capacity for 5% for cargo on the China Rail, but that was now with the new high-speed trains, that has greatly improved. So the capacity on the China Railway is now improving greatly. Being a national railway, we have the ability to then negotiate with the China Railway and get their location. So when we say that we're going to depart on a Tuesday and a Friday, for example, we will depart on a Tuesday and a Friday. So again, this reliability and the speed is very important. Yeah, we appointed DP World to take care of the inland port in Hawkers and in Aktau, to have a proper international company there to manage it. And they will also, as I mentioned, handle the port of Aktau as well, where we are, as I mentioned, building an additional container port there as well. Yeah, and as I said, we invested $100 million in just an Ingelgang port. Just some pictures for. Toyota's also been very instrumental in helping making this route work. They are also going to use Hawkers as an important point for their distribution. I saw a presentation from Toyota in Dubai, and they used to spend the 90 days to go via St. Petersburg and Finland for cargo back into Central Asia. So I think for a lot of Japanese car companies, this will now open doors for the whole of Central Asia, southern Russia as well. For the computer company, electronic companies, they can also do light assembly there. It is a very large free trade zone area. KDZ is building all sort of terminals there, both dry, liquid terminal, building a pharmaceutical fulfillment center there. Also other companies like DHL and so on are also building or want to build terminals in Hawkers. I actually believe that Hawkers will become as important a free trade zone as Dubai is today. It will develop the whole of that Central Asian region to a great extent, and it can also be used for the Middle East, Europe and so on. So it will be a place where I would like to see many Japanese companies coming in there and invest in having something there, because it will become a very important point. I believe as important as Dubai is today. Yes, again, this is with thanks to Toyota. They really taught me a lot about how the Japanese have been involved in the Silk Way, and well, as you can read here, and different culture imported to the Silk Road. This is my first visit to Japan, so excuse my Japanese. It's not very good, or it's non-existent actually. My colleague Alan, he's trying very hard. He's using his mobile phone to translate. So no traditional Japanese classical dance. Yes, that is originated from Central Asia. So the Silk Road has been a great, so we say, cultural door opener for many, many years. Now I actually believe now with the new Silkway, of course, the Central Asia will be developed even more, because you will also have the roads. The trucks can now also ply, and they will also go via hawkers, and they have permission to go now to Lingyuan. China has also applied to the IRU for TIR, which means you can drive trucks from and to Europe as well with, I assume, special urgent cargo and so on. So, and I think more the truck will probably develop the region, because you will need petrol stations, you will need service depots along the roads, and wherever you build one, you will also start seeing small cities being built. So I think it will develop the whole region again, once again. So history is kind of repeating itself. All these pictures and all this history is thank you to Toyota. They were the one who was kind enough to show us. I shall not try to pronounce the names for you, but I'm sure you know them all. Very famous Japanese painters. Yeah, so we are again very grateful to them to be part of all of this development. Having companies like this and HP has helped to create credibility for this service. Alan and I actually met the Minister of Transport for Kazakhstan, the President of KTZ in Urumqi a few weeks ago, and they was telling us that 10 years ago they started to plan this route. So it's a lot of work, a lot of time has gone into developing the new route. So we are very grateful to the companies who has spent a lot of time and effort to make it possible. So yes, we hope we will be a dream for the Japanese. We hope to see many, many Japanese companies using this. We will try, as we discussed this morning with the Japanese International Freight Forwarding Association, try to resolve the issues of capacity, issue of containers. We believe that we resolve that with our big investments into equipment. Because, I mean, when you think about refrigerated containers, you generally think about frozen food and so on, but one important aspect is, for example, the steel which are used to making cars. Because of the extra slow steaming or the ultra slow steaming of the shipping lines, the steel can no longer be transported without being oiled because of the long transit time. So by sending it by rail, you don't have to re-oil it, because this oil also creates a problem with the painting. So it is an extreme measure the steel company have to make. So now the railway could become their savior, so they can get the steel to China and to Japan in time without having to protect the steel. So it's not something you would think about normally, that you have to or you would transport steel in refrigerated containers, but they need this steel making cars is very, very delicate and needs and requires special treatment. So if any of you have importers of steel, you know, talk to us. We'll be happy to try to help you, give you some more information on that. So we will welcome anybody who is interested in using this route. We will do our best as a national railway company to help, to make the reliability, to make pricing which is affordable. But I think it's important to know that this route is only for niche market. It's only for high value cargo or an urgent cargo. It is not meant for the plastic toys and so on. It is a specialist route. I mean, the capacity on a rail is very small when you consider sea freight. But like HB said, they could halve their inventory in Europe. I mean, the cost of that must be huge. the capital cost of getting it to Europe in a third of the time by sea must also be enormous. So I think that any CFO in any company doing the calculation will know that the saving in time is much more important. But I think that as any freight forward logistic company will know, for your client, most important is reliability, transit time, rates which you know is open and transparent, and you know that the rate's not going to go up and down because of some issue with the ocean capacity or whatever else. So I believe this railway route will become a true third alternative. So you have sea, air, and rail. But when we get it down to below the 10 days, then I think we will encroach on the air freight business as well. So opening up, I mean, just the parcel business, the e-commerce business is enormous, absolutely enormous. I can imagine that we could fill a train a day just with parcel business. So there are lots of opportunities, and I'm sure Japan was also import a lot of wine and other stuff which could perhaps use this route as well. Food stuff, who knows, perhaps even tuna one day. So, well, that's it. Thank you very much.
それではクリステンセンさんが素晴らしいプレゼンテーションどうもありがとうございました。それではここからそのまま懇親会へと移らせていただきます。時間はただいまより約1時間半の2時頃までとなります。その際にですね、今のプレゼンテーションをお聞きになられた上で、例えば運賃レベルはどうなんだとか、ブッキングはどうやってすればいい、あとはスペース交渉誰とやればいいとかですね、カーボトレースはどういうふうにやるんだ、いろんな具体的なご質問出てくるかと思うので、それは名刺交換してお話しいただくときにどんどん質問を投げかけていただければと思います。それでは、積極的に皆様お名刺交換していただければと思います。じゃあもう一度クリステンセン様に大きな拍手をお願いいたします。食事の方も後ろの方に出てまいりましたので、皆様、立食形式になりますので、お取りながら、お話しいただければと思います。